Why did a yoga brand become the travel brand or the travel uniform for the aspirational woman? Welcome to this week's episode of your favorite marketing podcast, Decode Sessions, the Tuscany edition. As you can see, I'm not in the studio and I'm not with Caitlin. We have been apart for the past couple of weeks due to business travel, and we will be reunited next week back in the studio, all things normal. But until then, we thought what a good place to give you the topic of this week's episode, which is wellness, because the reason why I'm here is I'm at a yoga retreat with a very well-known yoga instructor, James Raphael. And before coming here, a little catalogue came in the mail, which led us to dive deep into the world of athleisure and wellness and a very popular brand at the moment, which is Alo. So we're going to dissect Alo's success story when it comes to marketing, and we are also going to investigate their launch into ready-to-wear, how we think that is going to land with existing consumers and new consumers, and we will finish off with some thoughts of what we would do and some recommendations for any brand in this space. So I mentioned a catalogue. Yes, a catalogue came in my letterbox, which I guess isn't an unusual thing. This happens quite regularly from various brands that I have subscribed to their mailing lists. What is unusual, though, is that I take a minute to open the envelope and actually look at the catalogue. But something made me stop in my tracks. The envelope was unbranded to begin with. It was one of these big black padded envelopes, and I could tell that there was something heavy in there, so it made me curious, and I opened it. And it is a very heavy, it's a thick, beautifully produced catalogue from Alo, and it made me curious, and I looked through it, and it turns out that it's not just a catalogue promoting their athleisure or their workout wear, it's also a catalogue promoting their new ready-to-wear collection. Shot in can with supermodel Candice Swampole, so high production and very high proximity to fashion. Anyway, we will come back to the ready-to-wear collection in a minute. I just wanted to talk about my consumer experience and what receiving this catalogue led to for me. And it was a visit to the website to look up a few of the pieces that I had seen in the catalogue, which then leads me to make my biggest purchase ever from the Alo website. And I'm a pretty loyal customer in the past, but this time I ended up buying quite a lot of stuff, which then prompts an email to be delivered to me congratulating me on having unlocked the highest tier of Alo membership. So they have a tiered system. It's divided into 3 parts, and it's based on spend. And you unlock different things based on which tier you're at. I'm now at the highest tier. Doesn't really make a big difference to where I was before, if I'm honest. I get some more gifts and I get access to some events. But it prompts me to download the Alo Wellness app, which I haven't had before. It's been opened up to anyone quite recently, I think. Originally, it was probably just for those who were the highest spenders. So I download the app. The app is amazing. It's right up my street. It's a whole world of workouts and anything. It's Pilates, it's yoga, it's HIIT classes, it's manifestation with Roxy Nafusi. Everything beautifully branded, delivered to you by really high caliber trainers and, instructors wearing really cool Alo stuff. So I've just purchased a load of stuff. I'm now in the world. I'm using the app. I'm actually considering, I've used the manifestation. I've done the manifestation classes. I'm actually even considering doing something I haven't done since COVID, which is going back to doing some of my exercising at home, because I now have this brilliant app with these great instructors teaching me. And again, I see cool outfits and I want to buy them, and I go onto the website. And there we go. a seamless ecosystem has unfolded in front of me, and I'm hooked. So before we get into the mechanics of what Alo has actually done, it's worth asking the question, what Alo, not what they did or how they did it, but why it worked. Why did a yoga brand become the travel brand or the travel uniform for the aspirational woman? Why does that matter for anyone building a brand, a business, or a communication strategy today? Because the answer isn't great marketing. The answer is timing. It's cultural reading and a very clear understanding of what women were actually hungry for, which the rest of the industry either missed it or they arrived there too late. So let's go to the mid-2010s, where exercise wear or athleisure is either built on performance or aspiration. Aspiration in terms of the physical achievement and performance in terms of how the clothes perform. Seamless leggings, breathable fabrics. That's what most of the brands like Lululemon and Nike would lead with, or Nike would lead with the physical achievement. And Alo made a completely different bet. They saw that there was a generation of women that didn't want to be serious athletes. They wanted wellness woven into their whole life. They wanted to be able to go from the gym to the cafe onto what they were doing with their day without having to change their clothes. So they turned yoga wear into a full lifestyle proposition years before wellness became luxury's favorite buzzword. And being early to a cultural shift, that is what creates a new category. So they didn't build a brand that competes with Nike on physical performance, or with Lululemon on the performance of the actual garments. They compete with no one because they competed with a feeling, something that people wanted to feel. So the system or the mechanism, it's not just one clever idea. It's a connected system where every part fed the next. A little bit how I described how that catalogue landed in my inbox and how the joints were seamlessly woven together without me even noticing it. I didn't feel like I was being marketed to. And that's when people become loyal, when they don't feel marketed to. So let's break down this system when it comes to marketing. What are the mechanics? What are the puzzle pieces that I feel are important to this success story? One is celebrity as context and not just as coverage. Alo has worked with the likes of Hailey Bieber and Kendall Jenner and so forth, not so much as faces of their campaigns, but they've tried really hard to get these women to wear the brand off duty and therefore be photographed in it by the paparazzi. That is what has worked, because that's not a fitness association, that's a lifestyle association. You're not seeing an athlete endorse a product, you're seeing a woman you find aspirational happen to be wearing something. And it's that happen that is the key here. They're wearing it outside of work. They're not being the faces of the brand. And that distinction matters enormously. They also have their wellness clubs. Started in Beverly Hills. There is one in Seoul, there's one in New York, and the London one opened a month ago. This is probably the most clever move in the whole strategy. And this is the piece that also doesn't get enough credit. And it's the engine underneath everything. So the Alo Wellness Club is the brand's invite-only wellness space where influencers and celebrities and key people are being invited to come and exercise, hang out, have a cold plunge, have an IV drip, have a green juice, and meanwhile, wearing Alo, obviously, you get handed a kit of Alo when you walk through the door. You're not allowed, the kind of the admission, the price you pay to get in is that you have to wear Alo, and everything in the space is beautifully Alo branded, and it's perfectly lit, it's perfectly set up, and it creates a content engine. And it's because it's invite only, it's very aspirational. People want to be there. So once they're in, they want to document it. So there you have a space that effectively pays for itself in content many, many, many times. I can imagine the ROI on that investment to be, in the hundreds of percent. Because otherwise you would have to pay these influencers to endorse the brand for you. And instead they're just in there exercising with beautiful trainers and instructors. Some of them I know personally. They're the best instructors in London, have been handpicked for this club. They also, I think the third point is their category expansion that never broke the frame. It's hard to expand a brand without confusing what you stand for, but Alo has managed to do so because they've never changed their underlying idea. Their underlying idea is wellness. They never changed that. They just changed the expressions of it. And by expressions, I mean they've moved into different categories. They do body care, they do skin care, they do supplements, they do ski wear, formal wear, handbags, footwear, a podcast. It's all labelled under the same, it all sits on the same platform. It's all wellness. So therefore, it fits really nicely together. The fourth point I wanted to highlight is that they created their retail stores as a world to inhabit. Just like the Alo Wellness Club, it's perfectly lit, it's perfectly created so that you want to be in there, you want to photograph yourself. They're also running loads of events in there. They have juice bars, they have personalization of journal, workshops, whatever it might be, which is for members of the public to buy a ticket or sign up for free and come and document themselves in the space, picking up a green aloe juice. I've done it myself and I took the photos. And last, they created that daily habit between the purchases, which is the Alo app. You're not even thinking about it. You're using the app, you're seeing people wear the clothes, you are in the world. I am loyal to that world now. I feel like that world is associated with wellness for me. That brand is associated with wellness for me. Those are the mechanics. And I mentioned at the beginning that they now own the travel uniform. And I think that's a very important thing to mention when we talk about why did they succeed? What is it that they've done? Step onto any flight to Dubai, for instance, or to LA, or when I was in Paris recently at Hotel Cost in the reception, there's loads of women there wearing Alo. On the flight, everyone is wearing Alo. It's become the sort of unofficial travel uniform for the fashion girls who would normally wear Loewe and Celine and, all the French and Italian luxury fashion houses. But it's actually not right anymore to step onto a flight wearing a pair of jeans. You step onto a flight wearing sweatpants or leggings, and the right brand for that has become Alo. So of course the handbag is going to fit with that as well when they launch that collection. So speaking of the handbag, let's get into the ready to wear move. So they launched Atelier in winter 2022, and they launched it as a ski wear collection, but also not just as a on the slopes collection, but they launched it as to take you from the slopes to the après ski to your drinks in the afternoon collection. Something that could travel seamlessly with you on that holiday and transition seamlessly for you into different parts of that holiday. That created a proof of concept for them. It proved that Alo could dress a woman for a full day in a luxury destination, not just the workout portion of it. So after that comes the handbag. About 6 months ago, they designed a luxury handbag collection, retailed at $2,000 to $3,000. Beautiful leather handbags, designed in Los Angeles, but handcrafted in Florence, which is just around the corner from where I am at the moment, by artisans with custom forged hardware. They launched them in limited quantities in their New York and LA flagships, and each bag arrived with a one-of-a-kind crystal charm. The industry was debating and discussing and kind of frowning a little bit. Alo doing luxury handbag, not so sure. And I've had to sit with it. It's been 6 months since this launched, and I've spoken to some people about it, and I revisited the conversation with someone the other day, and we actually agreed that, there is a purpose for that handbag. I think even in my wardrobe, I've looked at them now for a few months, and they're cute. They're really nice. And when I'm wearing my leggings and when I'm, in my travel uniform, as we now like to call it, that handbag fits. I think it fits better than my other designer handbags because it's in that same world. So that's a deliberate statement from Alo as well in terms of who they are becoming as a brand, because next up is the summer iteration of the Atelier collection, which was launched a month ago, and it was launched in Cannes and Saint-Tropez with 2 new store openings that they just did in those cities. And they launched it with the shoot with Candace, which I just mentioned, and those pictures that I saw in the catalogue that arrived in my post. And they used Cannes and the film festival as the brand statement. So they opened the 2 stores, but then they also transformed the pier outside the Hotel Martinez, which is one of the most iconic hotels in Cannes and the kind of key backdrop for the film festival. They transformed the pier on the beach to that hotel into a branded wellness destination for the duration of the film festival. So you had custom sunbeds, you had curated juice menus, sound baths, morning yoga classes, run clubs, all along the Croisette. And then comes the yacht. And I know the yacht has been, it's been discussed to death over the last kind of 4 to 6 weeks since we first saw it. And I'm not going to discuss whether that was a tax trick or not. But what it definitely was is it's a wellness club at sea. So they put a 72-meter private yacht outside Cannes, again, invitation only, just like the wellness club, offering Pilates on deck, IV therapy, lymphatic drainage, you name it. And it sailed from Cannes during the film festival to Monaco for the Grand Prix. And think about what that is structurally. That is the wellness club on the water. It's the most photographed, culturally loaded event on the European calendar. Invitation only, immaculately produced, and everywhere on social media within hours. Because of course, if you're invited to that, you are going to speak about it. So the question we believe that Alo still needs to answer, and this is where I want to be honest, because everything I've described so far is, of course, extraordinarily well executed. But the Summer Atelier collection, silk dresses, cashmere sweaters, all retailed at about £400 or £500. That presents a question to me that I feel that the brand hasn't fully answered yet. How does a logo so strongly associated with athleisure live on a £400 silk dress? Do I want to wear that dress to Cipriani in Ibiza this summer? And I say this as someone, as I told you, is completely bought in to the brand. I love their world. I trust it. I trust the product. And I do really believe in what they're doing. But when I imagine myself at a dinner in central London or in Ibiza or wherever I'm going in a silk Alo slip dress, I hesitate. And I think that hesitation is worth examining because understanding it will be the key to what they do next. So the problem isn't the dress. The problem is what the logo is carrying in terms of context and the fact that it hasn't yet earned that room. It hasn't yet earned that fashion world that it's entering into. A silk slip dress at a dinner at Cipriani in Ibiza requires a different kind of aspiration. It's a more dressed, a more European style, less West Coast wellness. I'm confident that they can get there because they've done exactly this before. If you think about it, they used to be a yoga brand. They are called Alo Yoga. Their URL for the website is still Alo Yoga, but no one thinks about them as that anymore. And they didn't actually do anything overt to get rid of that association or to get rid of that extension of the logo. They have just sort of quietly moved into other territories and taken over other territories. And the yoga part of the Alo has just sort of, it's disappeared. Yes, it's still there in the URL, but I don't think anyone actually thinks about it. So if they could get rid of the yoga association and remove themselves from being purely a brand for yogis who go on retreats like the one I'm at the moment, I think they have a good chance at the ready-to-wear collection. But there are a few things that they need to get right. So let me walk you through what I think they are. One is who gets photographed in it and where. This isn't the wellness girlies, and it's not the same people that have been wearing the brand before. Now you need to be a lot more careful about putting it on real fashion profiles. And I'm talking, fashion editors from the key publications like Vogue, from key stylists. These are the women we now need to see wearing that silk dress, either on their summer holiday or in the cities this summer. And that has to be sustained and deepened. It never works when a brand tries to do these kind of endorsements or seeding campaigns where they gift people or pay people to wear it when they do it as one-offs. Like, this has to be repeated over and over again until it becomes the new normal, until it sticks, until it's a given for me that the Vogue team will wear that Alo slip dress when they go on holiday and go out for dinner. The second thing is that they do need to be featured in editorial. It can't just be social media content. They have to be seen in the right context. They have to be featured by Vogue. How do you do that? Yes, it's earned media, but earned media, as we know and as we've seen with Coach, and we talked about that in one of our previous episodes, earned media can be paid for. The more media you buy, the more earned media you get in return. So that's obviously not an impossible threshold to step over for Alo. The second thing, I think, or third thing rather, is selective wholesale. I think they need to think really carefully about which stores are allowed to carry this collection, but also outside of their Alo stores. Think a Corso Como, think a Dover Street Market, think a Bon Marché in Paris. That tells the fashion customer, when something is retail there, it tells the fashion customer that someone whose judgment she trusts has already made the decision for her. This product is vetted, it's okayed. So that single stocking decision will potentially communicate more than any campaign with any supermodel ever. Another thing I think could be really interesting to explore is who designs it. If you bring in a creative director from the luxury fashion world, you are really saying that you're serious and you mean it. You are becoming a brand that has different layers to it. One of them is wellness, and you already own that layer, but you are confident in moving into the layer that is ready to wear. And that can be done by hiring a creative director who comes from one of the luxury brands. Someone who is actually available, they're a pair that I think could be a really cool fit, are Luke and Lucy Meyer. So they used to be at Jill Sander, and they built it into something clean and sporty and with elevated basics, but that had real craft underneath. And that Swiss precision mapped onto Alo's California wellness aesthetic could be really compelling. Lucy came from Dior Couture, but Luke came from Supreme and Nike. That combination, couture rigor meets sportswear, that is exactly what I think Atelier needs. And lastly, to really be able to play the long game, if you take all of these little bits that I just mentioned and you pair that with a much quieter logo, or maybe a completely different logo altogether, or a logo that doesn't sit on the clothes but it sits inside the clothes, then I think you are on a good trajectory to be able to play the longer game, even in the fashion industry. So to wrap this up, what does this actually tell us? Apologies for the car driving past on the dirt road in the middle of nowhere where I am. Alo didn't invent wellness, they didn't invent athleisure, they didn't invent influencer marketing or experiential retail. Every single tactic that they have in their playbook existed before. What they did is that they answered a question, or they solved a problem. There was a real cultural gap at the moment. There was nothing for these women to dive into, to be really loyal to. There was no world for them and there was no brand for them that fit with these occasions that we talked about earlier, from the gym to X, Y, and Z, the travel uniform, that didn't exist. They found a woman that was going through an identity shift and they catered to her. They walked into that gap and they built a world around it. And that's why the catalogue worked on me. That's why the app creates daily loyalty. That's why the Wellness Club generates more organic content than any paid campaign ever could. It's not because Alo is clever. I mean, they are. But it's because they were solving for something real. And when a brand solves for something real, the consumer doesn't feel marketed to. She feels found. That's the lesson. It's not the super yacht. It's not the influencer strategy. It's not the silk dress. The lesson is find a gap between who your consumer is and where she's going, and build there before anyone else does. Everything else, they're tactics. And in Alo's case, they are tactics that show what it looks like when you get it right. I started this episode with a catalogue that came through my letterbox. I'm now exercising with Alo instructors in my home, coveting everything they wear. I am wearing it, recording this episode as well. I'm not yet considering the silk dress for summer, but I am curious. Most brands chase trends. Alo chased a woman. They followed her from the yoga studio to the street, from the street to the airport, from the airport to the wellness club, from the wellness club to a super yacht in Cannes. They built a system that moves with her wherever she goes. The silk dress at Cipriani is the next chapter. The logo isn't quite there yet. The story around Alo in the fashion world isn't quite there yet. But if the last 15 years have taught us anything about Alo, it is that they know how to get there. Thank you to our dear listeners for tuning in again today. As promised, we're back in the studio next week and Caitlin will be right next to me, so fear not, she's not gone. In the meantime, please rate, follow, subscribe, all of those things, and we shall see you in a few days. Bye.